Okay, so this is part 3 of week 6. So we're getting into job analysis with this one. And you should answer question 6, I believe. 6, yeah, this will be question 6. I think we answered 4 and 5 and 3 pretty thoroughly in those prior PowerPoints. Okay, so this is part 3, job analysis. What is job analysis? This is kind of an overview of what job analysis is from an ergonomic perspective. It's basically an activity analysis of a specific job. It's a comprehensive analysis of a specific job. It involves all these different parts. It all starts with a description of the essential functions of a job. I'll talk about that more in a second. And you need to know how to do this for your job analysis assignment, which is due 10/14, I believe. You're going to be doing this on the job that you choose that's approved by me. You have to describe the essential functions of the job, sequential steps involved with the job, physical requirements, job measures, and other considerations. What do I mean by essential functions? The basic and essential duties of a position. Just a kind of a general overview. Don't make this too in-depth. Don't need to write a lot on this. Quick, brief, concise. Let's say you're doing it on your job over the summer. If you had a clinical rotation over the summer, you evaluated and treated patients. That kind of summarizes generally what you did. And then you have to kind of break it down from there. You have to analyze the steps involved in the essential functions of the job. It involves breaking each sequential function into sequential steps. Describe clearly what employees must do to accomplish each step involved. Here's an example. A dock loader or a laborer, he unloads these packages from the back of a truck all day. That's kind of what he does. He unloads and he reloads the trucks. Loading, his essential functions basically are just loading and unloading parcels. UPS workers probably do this when they load up the trucks in the morning. So within that essential function, broke it down into 8 different steps, 8 different sequential steps. And you'll have to do this for your job. Break it down into 8 to 12 different steps. He directs the truck, backing it up to the loading dock. The truck doors are opened. He opens them, reviews the IDs, the parcels, unloads the parcels, content of truck rearranged to balance load, reviews ID parcels to be loaded. He loads the parcels onto the truck and he checks the load, reviews it for safety. These are the 8 sequential steps of his job, of the essential functions of his job. You have to really kind of think a little generally. Don't get caught up too much in the details of your job, but have enough detail in there and give it your best shot with this. And then for each step, for each sequential step, and you're going to have to do this for your job for each sequential step. So in this case, there were 8 sequential steps. So for this one, you'd have 8 different sheets listing all the physical requirements of each of that particular step. So again, for this one, you're going to have 8 different sheets. Within each sheet, you're going to break down step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And with each one, you're going to have to look at all these physical parts. What are some of these involved or are they not involved? Lifting, carrying, pushing, pulling, standing. Look at all that. All of that, is any of that involved in your job? Here's an example. This is just for step 4. Again, you're going to have to do this for all the steps in your job. For step 4, the physical parts of the job, climbing onto the truck, bending, stooping, reaching, grasping, lifting, carrying to the dock, placing them in the designated area. Think of all those physical parts that you're doing the job. That's why it's really good to have a job that's a little more physical than versus something where you're just static sitting there greeting the public all day or whatever. So those are the physical requirements that you're going to have to do for your job. Okay, and then the measures, the tools. I don't think you're doing that this week. This sometimes is a hard fit depending on what you're doing for your job. Again, this is general statements of the height, width, length, time, frequency involved in all those sequential steps. The boxes are obviously the big one. What's the dimensions of the boxes, the height, the width, the length, the weight of the boxes, how much time does it take, like frequency performing each task, number of parcels per truck, all that sort of stuff. When you do your grocery store assignment and you're observing how long it takes the person to check you out, you're kind of getting into some of that stuff. You would break it down even further, generally speaking, the range of items that they're lifting, carrying, and sliding through the scanner. Um, so this is something else you do in a really comprehensive job analysis. Other considerations, you could do this with your job as well. Psychological considerations, stress. Is there a degree of stress? Why is there a degree of stress? Is it related to productivity, expectations, atmosphere, all that stuff? Physiological considerations. This kind of confuses some people sometimes. Think of the nutrient pathway stuff we just talked about. Physiological is primary nutrient pathway type factors. Is it static? Is it dynamic? Postures, breaks, repetition. Environment, is it cold, lighting, flooring, all that sort of stuff, the air quality. Cognitive considerations, cognition considerations, go back to that PowerPoint. We did that. Planning, attention, memory, executive processing, is there a lot of that involved? What's involved with that? Again, generally speaking, not heavily detailed. This is a really great resource, this ZeroNet Online. Any job you can think of, it'll give you the essential functions, give you a job description of that particular job. If you're out working in the field and you get a funky job, you can use this as a resource to kind of get at that job. Okay, so here's an example. This is around grocery store workers, a cashier, which you're going to be doing this week. The cashier, grocery store workers is our first profession that we're breaking down. What are the essential functions of a cashier? They run items through the scanner, they record money, cash. They may stock groceries too. In some jobs they do, sometimes they don't. Let's say they're not in this job, they're just scanning, exchanging the money or the other credit card. The steps involved. These are the sequential steps. We broke it down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think. Push the button, remove the divider, scan the groceries, push them down the chute or use other conveyor belt, type in the items, record the total, take coupons, cash, exchange, change, that sort of thing. And then breaking down, we're just doing scanning. So scanning is the third thing we listed here. Again, you'd have to do it for all of these things. But we're just doing scanning as an example. Physical components, standing by groceries, seeing the item, reaching, feeling, pulling and pushing the groceries, lifting groceries, handling groceries. Other considerations, psychological, it's people focused. You have low control. What does that mean? You're not a supervisor. It's not a job where you have a lot of freedom. You're kind of at the mercy of how busy you are at the job, how many people are coming through. High demand, you're doing a lot of reps, low wage, not so stimulating, probably not a lot of meaning in that job for most people. Physiology, the nutrient pathway factors, it's static, classically static, high reps, low heart rate. In a lot of cases, depending on where you are too, it's cold for opening and closing the door. So it could be cold as well. So it's like bing, 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 all red flags, high potential for injury in this job. Sure enough, there is a lot of injuries, pain, repetitive strain injuries around cashiers. The environment, the cold would not go here, we'll go into the environment. Fluorescent lighting, the heating, the hard floors, that can be a big issue. Cognition, a lot of attention, dividing, alternating, focus, sustained, selective attention. Okay, and then the job assignment, let's kind of talk about that briefly. I kind of did already. This is posted on Canvas, you can start this. Make sure your job is pre-approved. Email me or ask me in class. Fill out all these forms. The essential jobs, marginal tasks, you can kind of add things on the side if you can't get it all in an essential description. And then the steps of the essential task, what your job is about, and then kind of break it down into tasks, how many steps involved. And then the physical things. And again, you need to make copies of the form for each step, not just one, for each. It's going to take a little time to do that. Do 1014. Here's the essential task to kind of break it down. And then you're doing the sequential steps, depending how many, it's a list 7 whatever, but you can have more or less. And then for each one, so in this case, let's say there was 11 sequential steps, you have to do 11 of these sheets. Describe, if it's not, you can just put NA if it's not applicable, the carrying, the pushing, all these different physical factors that may be involved in your particular job. There's the rubric, and that's 1014. Let me know if you have questions with that.